Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. Not going anywhere. Boost. Peekaboo. I see you because I'm YouTube famous now. Available summer 2025, the album. Dad. Shimmy, shimmy. That shimmy was off. That was shimmy, 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 shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy. And rock on gold dust. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, I'd buy you a... Oh, I went off. I didn't do it the way I wanted to do it. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, I'd buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress. That's cruel. Beast. How are you guys doing today? Oh my God. That intro. Well, I have to say, the majority of you have voted for the intro to stay. The intro will stay, okay? Now, I talked about this in 2 videos, okay? That I don't know whether I should get rid of my 8-year-old intro, of which when I said that, people are like, please don't get rid of your intro. What will I do without your intro? People are like, I say your intro with you all the time. And then other people said, no, I fast forward through the intro. And then other people are like, well, you could come up with a new intro. So going into 2025, I'll do the same thing I did in 2024, which is sometimes I will do the old OG original intro. And sometimes I will come up with a new intro. And sometimes if it's very, very serious, I'll just say, hey, you guys, how are you? Or hello, 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 or something like that. And then we'll know. And then you know it's a serious video. But today, it's not a serious video. Today, it's not a serious video because we're going to talk about Tana Mongeau and Trisha Podcast starting a Love Line podcast. Delilah. I think they should have called it Delilah. I do. Oh my God, I love Delilah so much. Actually, it's so interesting singing that song. If I had $1 million, I'd buy you a house. Do you guys remember that song from the Bare Naked Ladies? Okay, so I have some very fond, well, first of all, I need to go in with the Morphe No. 9 called Canceled lip gloss here for just a second. Hold on a second. Now that I'm ready to do some talking, let that bake a little bit there. I have actually a very fond memory of that song, okay? Well, it kind of is like 2 stories in one. So, we used to go to Gatlinburg, Tennessee every year for Christmas, okay? Since this is almost Christmas season, I will give you a little bit of a Christmas story. So, I am obsessed with the made-for-television Christmas movie with Dolly Parton called Smoky Mountain Christmas, okay? If you've never seen it, it's on YouTube. But wait, because I also have a movie club over on my Peter Does Stuff channel called Peter Does Stuff. And I have a movie club over there called Peter's Movie Club. And on Peter's Movie Club, we might just be watching A Smoky Mountain Christmas for the holiday season this year. Okay, now if you haven't watched the movie, she actually 2 years ago, the movie came out in like 1986, okay? She just put some of the songs out 2 years ago on her Christmas album, Dolly Parton. I literally sat right here listening to it, and I was like crying my eyes out because I love these songs for so many years, okay? Here, I gotta tune up my guitar for a second. My guitar like I'm in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee with Dolly Parton with the coat of many colors. Okay, let me tune it up. Okay. I'm dreaming of a Smoky Mountain Christmas. You can take the girl from the country, I have heard them say, but you cannot take the country from the girl. Boost! I love that movie so much. Okay, so every year for Christmas, well, not every year, but my ex and I started it with my mom and one of our friends who has since passed away. And my mom since passed away, so we don't do it anymore, and I'm not with my ex and my husband. We're not going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee for Christmas. Okay, so anyway, we used to go to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and it all started because I love the movie Smoky Mountain Christmas with Dolly Parton, the made-for-TV movie, okay? Now, the synopsis for the movie is kind of a stretch, all right? It's about this country music star, and she is from Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. She's from, the Appalachian Mountains, and she gets famous as a country music star. And then she doesn't really want to be famous anymore. And so she goes back to her hometown, but she like fakes that she went away, and so they think that she got kidnapped, see? And then she goes up into this mountain, and she meets Chris Christopherson. I think it's Chris Christopherson, anyway. And he's like a big-time like football player or attorney or something like that. He don't want to be famous no more either. And then she's staying at her friend's cabin, okay? And while she's staying at her friend's cabin, I think her friend's name is Mary Sue or something like that. Well, there's this other woman, okay? And she's got like this long flowing hair, and she's got mountain magic, okay? And she's real, I've seen this movie so many times, and she's real jealous of Dolly Parton, okay? And so she's putting mountain magic on her, and she puts it in this apple pie and all this kind of stuff. I'm not ruining it for you, trust me. You couldn't ruin this movie if you tried. So then Dolly Parton, she goes to Mary Sue or Sue Ellen's house, or who, that's from the Waltons. Anyway, to her house, and little does she know that all these orphan kids that ran away from the orphanage in town, they all live there, okay? But she doesn't know that because they're out hunting in the woods for squirrels, because they done made squirrel stew. So she comes to Sue Ellen or Mary Sue or Judy Sue's house or whatever, and she's like, you know, getting ready to get into bed because she's so tired from the long drive from Los Angeles, because she drove all the way in a pickup truck from Los Angeles to the Appalachian Mountains, okay? Nobody ever questioned that about the movie. How long of a drive? That's a 3-day drive right there, okay? You know, but Dolly did it. She sang the whole time. They don't show that part in the movie, though. They show her butler, okay? That's real worried about her because ma'am always packs a lot and stuff like that. So anyway, there's also this paparazzi guy, and he's on her tail the whole time, and he's trying to, like, find out where she's at and all this kind of stuff. So she goes in the cabin, and she says all this kind of stuff. She's like, oh, Sue Ellen, you thought of everything. You even made me squirrel Sue. And then she lays down in the bed, and she falls asleep like that. Perfect, like Dolly Parton probably falls asleep every night. And then the kids come in, and the one kid says, she looks just like an angel. And then it's like, you know, her and the kids, and they have this Christmas and all this kind of stuff. It's so good. And then she hangs a room for this one girl. This is my favorite part, okay? Because the girl, she's with all boys, and so, except for the little sister, but they don't mind her. And then she got this, the girl don't have no room because it's just this big open cabin, you know? It's like an open house concept kind of thing. And so she don't have her own room. And so Dolly Parton starts telling her about when she was real little and poor. She's not anymore. She's like a big country music singer. It's why all the kids are like, please, can't we come live with you? Can't we come live with you? And she's like, I don't know, maybe. And then John Ritter from Three's Company, he plays the judge at the end. But anyway, so there's this one part. She's like, when I was a little girl, we hung a room. And the girl was like, what do you mean hang a room? And so she's like, well, you take a blanket and you hang it over like where your bed is, and then you privatize your room, then you hang yourself a room. And Dolly Parton throws this blanket up over this string, and she goes, not too bad considering we're almost professionals. It's my favorite part in the entire movie. Okay, but anyway, so we used to go to, well, we started it one year because I was like, just one Christmas, I want to go down to the Smoky Mountains. I love the Smoky Mountains so much. And Gatlinburg, Tennessee is probably one of my favorite places in the entire world. And I was like, I just want to go down there and I want to have a Smoky Mountain Christmas one year. So we got a cabin and whatever. Well, we kept on doing that like years after that. So that's the Smoky Mountain Christmas part. But this one year when we were driving down there, we would always leave here at like 8 o'clock at night. And so we were like driving through the mountains, you know, Tennessee at real late at night and stuff like that. And one night, Delilah comes on. And I'd forgotten all about that show. My mom ate it up. She used to listen to that show all the time. Delilah. Do you guys remember that? And then people would call in and they'd say, yeah, Delilah. And she'd say, well, I think what you should do. And, oh my God, my mom loved it so much. But anyway, that's the Delilah story. Oh, but this is the other story. So the last Christmas that my mom and I spent before she passed away, which was the Christmas of 2007. So I had rented like the 7-bedroom cabin in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was gorgeous, right? And then my cousin was supposed to come, but she couldn't end up coming. And then my ex and I, we had broken up, so he wasn't coming. And then the friend, okay, he wasn't coming anymore. And so it ended up just being my mom and I in this like 7-room cabin, okay? We should have invited all them kids over, Dolly Parton and the whole family. We should have invited all of them over, and then we could have sang, I'm dreaming of a Smoky Mountain. Anyway, so, but my favorite song is at the very end, okay? It's, oh my God, it's the best song. It's called like Dress You Up in Love or something like that. But anyway, what was I going to say about Dolly Parton, Christmas, love lines? What was I thinking of? Now I can't remember. Oh, Christmas Eve. So my mom and I, we went to Cherokee, the casino in Cherokee. I think it's in North Carolina, okay, not Tennessee. Or is it Cherokee, Tennessee? I don't know. But yeah, we went over the mountain, okay, in Cherokee National Forest. And on the way over there, we were singing the Bare Naked Ladies. My mother loved the Bare Naked Ladies so much. That song, If I Had $1 Million. So when I was singing it today, because my mom and I, we changed all the words and stuff like that, you know. But that's how you do it when you sing songs and stuff like that. So anyway, that was just kind of like a little memory. I love that memory so much. But the sad kind of part of the memory is when we came back, there was an ice storm, okay? And then we were like the only ones coming back on the mountain because I couldn't find my way back on the interstate. And so like halfway down the mountain, my mom was like, I can't do this anymore. Stop, pull the car over. And it was like right as the sun was coming up on Christmas morning. And so my mom stopped and the sun is coming up on the mountains behind her. And my mom went like this and she goes, this is God. And that was, I'm going to start crying. And that was the picture that I used for my mom's like funeral thing because it was my mom. And she goes, she had like this little jean jacket on, the shirt that said Brooklyn. It's t-shirt. And then my mom went up like this. She looked and she goes, this is God right here. Because my mom always believed that God was in everything. So anyway, little Christmas memory for you. Woo! Didn't think that a video about Trisha Paytas and Tana Mongeau would get me crying. And I love Christmas memories, don't you? Or whatever holidays you celebrate. You know, happy holidays. That don't mean that I just disrespect anybody that doesn't celebrate Christmas. That means I just, you know, hey, listen, let's all celebrate. Happy New Year to you, okay? Let's hope 2025 is good this year. All right, so, oh my God. Today on my Peter Watches TV channel, I'm going to be doing a video about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But last night, speaking of, if you're the older generation like I am, I consider myself part of the older generation. I watched a show last night. I binge watched the entire thing, all 8 episodes, okay? On Netflix. It's #1 right now. It's called A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson. And if you ever watched The Good Place, there's a cameo of his assistant from The Good Place at the very end of the show. But that doesn't ruin anything either. But it's about this guy, and his wife has passed away, and she had dementia. And so he becomes a private investigator, okay, to go into this retirement home where jewelry is getting stolen. You guys, it is one of the best shows I've ever seen, okay? It is so good. And it is, you know, I have so many friends of mine whose parents are, you know, suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. And I feel like it's one of the things we don't talk a lot about as you get older. I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, like, I don't feel like I knew that many people. I knew a few, but not that many. Now it's like, I feel like so many people that I know have parents that are suffering, and spouses that are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's so sad. And it's something that we don't talk about much. And the show does such a fantastic job of talking about the grief that goes along with it. So if you're looking for a good show, it is a sad show, an emotional show, but a fantastic show at the same time. And funny, and very funny at parts too. And it's called A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson. And it's #1 on Netflix right now. So I binge watched that last night. But anyway, I wanted to make a little drama video over here today. Oh my Lord, hi, how are you? I want my lip balm, but it's over there. I threw it behind me. Oh my God, I need more lip balm. Oh, I gotta do a lip balm review. That's coming. But today it's not coming on my review channel because I did finally find the Shirley Temple 7-Up. Okay, so I'm reviewing that over my review channel today. Did you know that they had Shirley Temple 7-Up? Oh my God, I can't wait. So anyway, today I wanted to talk about this Tana Mongeau Trisha podcast, that Trisha Paytas podcast that's coming out. Okay, which, by the way, interestingly enough, okay, now I've kind of fed this out in my vlog and other things in the last like year or two, but I've thought about doing a podcast. So many people have asked me, they're like, are you going to do a podcast? You're going to do a podcast now? My friends and I, Melissa, she and I were going to do this horror movie podcast back in the day. Okay, we've kind of backburnered that for a long time. She's very, very heavily involved in like the New Kids on the Block. She's a blockhead. Oh my God, she is such a blockhead. She goes to the cruises. She goes to all the block parties. She goes to, I think she went to like 20 concerts this summer or something like that. And she's very, very involved in like dog rescues and things like that. So we kind of backburnered that for the time being, but we might, it's called the Boogeyman Besties. We might come back and do that, okay? Because, you know, I love the horror movies and stuff like that. We might start it up sometime, I don't know, sometime this year. But then my cousin and I, my cousin Caroline, we were going to do this podcast called Cousin Cousin. We wanted it to be a reality show, really like Sister Sister, but it was going to be Cousin Cousin. Well, Sister Sister wasn't a reality show, okay? But, you know, it would be a reality show about our lives, and it would be called Cousin Cousin. But it would be like capital Cousin, that would be me, and then little, you know, lowercase cousin, that would be my cousin Caroline. But anyway, so we were going to do this podcast called Cousin Cousin. For those of you that don't know, my grandma went to prison. We found out after my mom passed away that my grandma on my mom's side and Caroline's side, our grandma went to prison, okay? Now, we thought it was just one time. Then we found out it was 2, and now we're not sure. It might be 3, okay? For embezzlement and fraud and some other things. We think she was working for the mafia. No, true story, we do, okay? So anyway, we were going to do this podcast, and we were going to center it around finding out the truth about what happened with our grandma and our moms and things like that, because our moms were in the foster care system when they were growing up, and there's a lot of secrets that we don't know. So we were talking about turning that into a podcast. But then I have people that reach out to me all the time. Just this week, I had like 3 people reach out to me and say, have you thought about doing a podcast? Like, you should do a podcast. Everybody's doing podcasts. Girl, I was thinking about doing podcasts before people were doing podcasts, okay? But I just never got with the time. So I haven't done a podcast. But 2025, the Peter Monn podcast might come. So if I do a podcast in 2025, if I didn't do, well, Melissa and I, that one is backburnered for a while. So if I don't do it with Caroline, my cousin Caroline wants to do a podcast so bad. If Caroline and I don't do a podcast together, well, I might do that one and then just have one of my own. What should I do on my own? People are like, how are you going to do a podcast? You don't have a co-host? Do you watch my vlogs? Yesterday, I filmed on my vlog for an hour and 48 minutes. That's an hour and 48 minutes of me sitting there and talking by myself. I could talk I've done 3 hours and 21 minutes of me talking. That's my longest vlog over there. Peter Monn talking for 3 hours and 21 minutes. You don't think I can carry a podcast a week just talking by myself? But I might have some special guests and things like that. What do y'all think I should do a podcast about? People are like, I know people will be like, do a sobriety podcast. There's 1,000 sobriety podcasts out there. I'm not going to do one. I think they're all well done. I listen to some of them. I'm not going to do a sobriety podcast. If I'm going to do a podcast, I don't want it to be real serious, okay? I want it to be kind of like fun and things like that. So anyway, so I saw this thing come up on Spill Some Tea With Me. Hold on, let me pull it up really quick. If y'all don't know, the Instagram account Spill Some Tea With Me, if I remember in the comment section below, I will write what the Instagram account is. But literally, the Instagram account is Spill Some Tea With Me. There's 4 E's, okay? And she posts all kinds of stuff, mostly about Ethan Klein and Jeff Wittick and Tana Mongeau and Trisha Paytas and things like that. But anyway, she posted this thing over here, and I was not aware of this, okay? Because I don't follow Trisha Paytas that closely anymore. But she posted this thing, and it says about Trisha Paytas announcing the Trisha and Tana podcast. Now, somebody commented on one of my videos, or a couple people did, so I was aware, but I didn't know, like, I thought it was just kind of like an idea Trisha was throwing out. I think it was when I was talking about Jeffree Star on the Tana Mongeau canceled podcast. I said something about it in there, and then people were like, oh, did you not know that Tana and Trisha are doing a podcast together? And I was like, no, I'm not surprised. I mean, Trisha and Tana have like gotten close in the last last 2 years. It doesn't surprise me at all. But anyway, so she posted this on here, and she said, Trisha teases people what her new podcast with Tana Mongeau will be about, and for followers to call in with their love and dating questions. So she's got it from her Twitter account. So I went over to her Twitter, okay, and on, let's see, 11/11/24, she posted, and if I remember, I will, I know I'll never remember, where are we at on time? If I remember, I will include the tweet up here somewhere, but she put, this is it right here, I know y'all can't see it, okay, it just says, call me and Tana to be featured on our new podcast, and then she put a heart emoji, an eggplant emoji, which we know is for dicks, okay? And then she put, like, the squirt emoji. So, like, the dick is squirting, okay, is what she put. So I guess it's not really a love and dating questions. I guess it's a sex podcast is what it is. And then she said, love and dating questions, call today. And then down here it says, not Love Line, which I kind of live for. It wasn't Love Line with Delilah. Was it called Love Line? Well, I kind of feel like it was. Anyway, and then she's got the number under here, and it says call Tana, Trish and Tana today. Okay. Well, I had seen on the Spill Some Tea With Me thing that people were like, I called it, and there was nothing. I think somebody said something like that. And then I looked underneath the Twitter, the tweets. Don't call and say what the tweets. I'll read them to you in just a second. But people were like, I called it, and it's not open yet. So I called it, okay? So we're going to call it right here, okay? I called it, and it is open. Now, I have to tell you, okay? Let me tell you a little story. You all right? So, in Indianapolis, we have the Children's Museum, okay? And every year they do this haunted house. Now, I'm scared to death of haunted houses, okay? I don't like people jumping out at me and things like that. I'm scared I always have been, okay? But when I was a little kid, they would take us through, I think it was like a school field trip or something like that. They could take us through the Children's Museum haunted house, and it was always, every year was a different theme, like Wizard of Oz or something like that, right? Kind of like the Trisha Paytas podcast. It's always a theme, right? And so then at the very end, they'd give us this number, and it was this number that you could call, okay? And it was like free. You could call it as many times as you wanted to. And it was a Children's Museum. And basically all it was the, the announcement for the haunted house. I called this number. I was such a lonely kid. I didn't have no friends when I was growing up. I mean, nobody would sit with me at the field trips or lunch and stuff like that. I was bullied horribly. So anyway, I would call this number. I can remember, like, I would come home and I would sit on our porch and with this yellow phone out there, and I would, like, call this number, like, it had this picture of this witch on it and everything like that, and you'd call it up and you'd go, welcome to the Children's Museum. Happy Halloween. And I was like, I lived for it, okay? I loved it so much. So when I called this number, I've already called it, so I kind of thought that it would be like Trisha and Tana, and Trisha would be like, hi, this is Trish. And Tana would be like, hi, this is Tana. Welcome to, and at the same time they go, not Loveline. I kind of would have lived for something like that, okay? But no, this is what we get instead. Are you ready? Here, I'm going to put it on speakerphone for you.
Do you need some advice on sex, love, and dating? Then leave a voicemail for Trisha and Tana.
Is that Oscar doing that? Do I need some advice on sex? And no, ma'am. I'm married. I've been married for 16 years. I'm doing okay. We're in marriage counseling. We've been in marriage counseling forever. We're big believers in marriage counseling, like vocal coaches, okay? Like Stevie Nicks and Mariah Carey. They all have vocal coaches to have the best voice they possibly can. Listen, we didn't start off that way, okay? We started going to marriage counseling because we were... speaking of country music, we were headed to divorce. D-I-V-O-R-C-E. But you know what? All these years later, we're still together. Our marriage is better than ever. So no, Trisha and Tana, I don't think you're probably two people that I would take dating or advice from. I don't know, maybe, okay? But I don't think so. So it's going to be interesting to see the calls they get. They'll probably get like a combination of very serious calls and very funny calls. Now, I have to tell you, I was kind of surprised, okay, when I read underneath this Twitter, because I thought it was either going to be people that were like, it's a mix of both. There's actually not that many comments on here. There's 44 comments. And I thought it would be like people either saying, like, this is such a stupid idea. I'm not down with this at all. Trisha Paytas in the past, the podcast, her Just Trish podcast, has done her very, very well. I think it's gained her a lot of favor. But the people that don't like Trisha Paytas have not obviously forgotten all the stuff that's happened in the past and things like that, and they're going to constantly remind her of that. But I think the Just Trish podcast has really helped her with public favor from a lot of people. Even I think people that had kind of fallen out of favor with Trisha and were kind of done with her and things like that. I think there's a lot of people in that group that kind of like fell back in love with Trisha again. And they like the podcast and whatever. And so I think that there's, I think she's gained a lot of people. Her podcast does very, very well. You know who else is doing very, very well? Garrett Watts is doing very, very well. Somebody sent me a video of his the other day, and he's getting better views than Shane Dawson. I thought that was interesting, but we'll save that for another video. So anyway, she's getting very good views on her podcast. I don't think that her and Tana starting a podcast, Tana's podcast does very well too, her canceled podcast. I don't think that Trisha and Tana starting a podcast together will hurt either one of them. And I think it will do very well. I think that, I don't know how long-lived I think it will be. I think it'll be a short-lived podcast. I don't know that I see the commitment from both of them. Trisha seems pretty committed to the Just Trish podcast, and Tana seems pretty committed to the canceled podcast. I think it's kind of a cute idea they probably came up with one night, and they're like, oh my God, let's do this. I don't think it'll be long-lived, but I could be wrong about that. I actually think I think it'll do very well. So what we're seeing right now with this is the old school days of 15 years ago when we would see all of the big YouTubers cross-pollinate their audiences. And what I mean by that is, do you guys remember back in the day when YouTubers would do a lot of collaborations? I can remember when I got on YouTube, and that was kind of the dream. Like, who do you want to collab with? Who are you going to do a collab with? And I feel blessed that I got to do a lot of collaborations with people, I feel very blessed about that. Trisha was kind enough to do a video with me. We sat on her kitchen floor, and it was a lot of fun when we did it. It was very nice. I really appreciate the fact that, she welcomed me into her home, and we sat down, and that was a fun moment for me. But that was kind of the OG thing, and I did, collaborations with Amelia Fart at the time, which was so fun. The Psychic Twins. I did a lot of collaborations at that time. And so, that was kind of like, and I was on the tail end of that. It was big, 2-3 years before I did that. It was really big. Everybody was collabing with everybody. And the whole purpose of that was to kind of cross-pollinate your audiences. When the drama channels came along and we started collabing with people, it was because we were just super fans. I think that's one thing that people have never really understood about the old school drama channels, was that we just wanted to... It's very much, the old school drama channels is very much like the early days of the Bravo accounts. How they were just obsessed with everything Bravo. And so they wanted to go to BravoCon. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do that, right? That's how drama channels started. We were just super fans of these people. Many of us had watched these people for years and years and years, some of the drama channels that I know that I've been friendly with through years, they've watched every video of some of these people back in the day. That's how they got started doing it. So the collaborations for us were really just meeting people. I was saying to somebody the other day, we were talking about it, And they were asking me what I thought about Adam McIntyre going to Los Angeles and doing this podcast where he rented out of space and he interviewed all these people, and now Adam McIntyre is going on tour and things like that. And I said, Adam McIntyre is fucking smart. Like, we were back in the day. Do you remember I'd get in videos, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd faint a million faints if I met somebody, right? I mean, we weren't asking these people for interviews and stuff like that. If it happened, if we got to do a video with them, that was cool, but we weren't asking for it. I think it's smart. I mean, he's thinking way ahead of things. I wasn't renting out no space. I just wanted to like maybe have a cup of coffee with somebody or something like that. I think it's so smart. You know what I mean? So anyway, So back in the day when people would collab, like you'd see Shane collab with Gabby Hanna, and Shane collab with Trisha, and Shane collab with everybody. Shane collabed with everybody because Shane was one of the first people to really figure it out, okay? And I can remember when I talked to Trisha back in the day, Trisha was like, Shane watches everybody's numbers. I can remember when I was getting, I can't even remember how many views a month I was, but Shane reached out to me, and this was before I even knew Shane, had ever talked to him. He DM'd me on Twitter, and he said, is your channel monetized? Because you can make a lot of money off your views. I mean, we had this like exchange back and forth because he was watching all the drama channels and who was going up. And when we sat down and talked, that was one of the things he asked me. He asked me about Karina Kaboom. He asked me about Rich Lux. He asked me about everybody. He wanted to know what, the ins and outs of everybody and whatever. And I was very careful with what I said. I didn't say a whole lot, I was like, oh, yeah, this person, bless, and all this kind of stuff, But I always thought that was really interesting. Well, what he was doing was, he was looking to see who was getting the most views. He always kept a very close tabs on who was getting the most views, who was on the up and rise, and then he would do a video with them, or he would include them in his videos and things like that. And it was kind of the old school thing of what people did, was they would collab with people that were having a growing audience, and then he would catch, or she would catch their growing audience, whoever was doing it. They would catch their growing audience, and then they would cross-pollinate. So they would get a lot of their new audience. Does that make sense? So podcasting, we're seeing a lot of that today. We're seeing like Jeffree Star go on podcasts, with people that he wouldn't normally. Now Tana and Trisha, like those are people that he has history with, but other people that he's gone on podcasts with, it's kind of like an attempt to cross-pollinate. It's trying to build a newer audience is what it's doing. So today what we're seeing with podcasts is really what we saw with YouTubers 15 years ago, okay? So it doesn't really surprise me that Tana and Trisha are doing a podcast, but I have to also believe that it's not, Trisha and Tana, I think, make such good money that I think this is more of a passion project for them. And this is just my 2 cents about it, okay? Disagree with me all you want. I feel like this is more of a passion project for them because I don't believe that Trisha and Tana are really going to cross-pollinate their audiences that much. I think a lot of people that watch Trisha already watch Tana, and I think a lot of people that watch Tana already watch Trisha. So it's not like they're going to build audiences off this podcast. So it feels like it's more of like a passion project for me, which I'm more inclined to watch something like that, okay, or listen to it. I think that's interesting. But I really thought when I read these tweets, it would be a lot of people that were like, oh, hell no, why are you doing this? Or it would be people that were kind of living for it. People were kind of, it was very calm in the comment sections. I was kind of surprised. I'm just going to go down here. Somebody tagged Adam McIntyre. Somebody said, what? Somebody said, calling. Somebody said, stop, OMG. Somebody said, oh, yikes, this is iconic. Somebody said, I'm sorry, what? Somebody said, OMG. Somebody said, OMG, like times 5. Somebody said, Trisha, when I tell you, this is everything. Well, I don't know if it's, this is everything. I think if Trisha and Shane made up, and I'm not saying that she should do that. I think there's a lot of conversations that probably need to occur behind the scenes. But if they made up and Trisha and Shane did a podcast, I think maybe that might be iconic, okay? That might be something that I'd be like, damn. Like, they work through all their shit and they're doing a podcast together. Trisha and Tana, it kind of surprises me that they haven't done a project together sooner. They've done videos together before. And Tana's been on her podcast and Trisha's been on her podcast. And they just did videos together recently. So it kind of surprises me that something like this hasn't happened sooner. Somebody said, I don't like the idea. I would prefer just Trish and Tana's podcast on her own. I don't know why. Let's see. Maybe they will prove me wrong. Somebody said, I left a voicemail. This was a sign for me. Okay, this is going to be so good. Somebody said, oh my God, answer, I'm begging. It's a voicemail, girl, okay? Somebody said, oh girl, the things I have to say, just says not available. I think this was before they set it up, because when I called it both times, it was, somebody said, y'all, please condone condoms. Don't support the pull-out method. Are you looking at the emojis, girl? Cum travels in fluid and in pre-cum. Tana Mongeau, she ats Tana Mongeau and Trisha Paytas. I I think they're probably educated on this, but she says, and then she lists a bunch of STDs and things like that. I'm sure that they're probably educated on that. Hello, somebody said, nobody wants to take advice from someone. Ooh. And then the comments start about the allegations about Trisha not being nice to Moses and Jason Nash. And so they're like, okay. And then there's a lot of comments about, why are you giving dating and advice and relationship? I mean, people are posting pictures. I mean, it's a lot. So, whew, I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think about this? You think this is a good move for Trisha and Tana? You think it's a bad move? More importantly, okay, it's Moosegate 2024. And if you know, you know. More importantly, number 2, should I start a podcast? And what should I start a podcast about? Okay, and it won't happen until 2025. I'm thinking maybe summer 2025. And third, should I keep the intro? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.